Hello, friends, and welcome back to Stories About Entitled People. Let's start our video with a story where OP faces an unwarranted confrontation. But before we begin, best way to support our channel is to leave comments, like, and subscribe with the turned-on bell so you don't miss the new video every single day. Here we go. Neighbor uses my driveway as his and thinks it's his property. 3.5 years ago, I bought a property in Niagara Falls, New York, a duplex that I turned into a rental. When I first purchased the property, there was some drama. The people next door who were tenants had been using my driveway as if it was theirs. They live in a single-family home with no driveway of their own, so they just claimed mine because their side door conveniently opens onto it. To make matters worse, they also use the driveway of an abandoned house on the other side for their other car. So essentially, they've been using two driveways that aren't theirs for years. When I was buying the house, the lawyers got involved, and I think their car was towed off the property before I even closed the deal. The guy next door actually found me on Facebook, sent me a message asking where his car was, and I had to explain that I didn't know because I didn't even own the house yet. Eventually, I told him that while I was aware of the driveway issues, he could continue using the driveway as long as it didn't bother my tenants. After all, the driveway also serves as a lane into both our backyards, so I figured it wouldn't be a big deal. Fast forward over 3 years, and we actually became friends. We'd chat all the time, and honestly, we were buddies. He continued parking on my driveway, usually just plugging it by pulling in and stopping his car right by his side door, making it impossible for anyone else to use it. He got lucky that none of my tenants had cars, so it never really became an issue. Until now. Recently, I got a great tenant who, unfortunately, has had to deal with the noise and commotion caused by my neighbor's driveway use. My tenant complained several times, saying the noise was disruptive, especially since they have an autistic child who was woken up by the neighbor's loud car with muffler and intake problems. My tenant was understandably upset and demanded that the neighbor stop using the driveway that he pays for as part of his rent. Even though he doesn't have a car, the driveway is still included in his lease. I talked to my neighbor about it, trying to be as nice as possible. I explained that the driveway is mine and showed him the land survey and official property plans. I even pointed out that the only land between us that's his is an 18-inch strip from his wall, a small path leading to his side door. I told him that for now he couldn't use the driveway and that we could revisit the issue in the future if I had different tenants. But I couldn't afford any trouble right now. He seemed to take it well enough, simply replying with, "Okay." But that "okay" was apparently just for show. He continued to park there, completely ignoring our conversation. My tenant informed me that they now park their quieter car there instead of the loud one, but they were still using the driveway as if nothing had happened. To top it off, they had company over this past weekend, and the driveway was packed with their cars. If I had shown up to do some work on the property, which I often do, I wouldn't have been able to pull in, something that's happened multiple times before. Now, a little more context. My neighbor and his family have lived in either my house before I owned it or their current house for the past 25 years, so they've developed a bad habit of treating my driveway as their own, regardless of which house they live in. And to make things even more complicated, my neighbor's planning to buy the house from his landlord, so if he succeeds, he'll own a house with no driveway, still thinking he's entitled to mine. This could make things even worse in the future. Update. I finally had enough and decided to tow his car every time he parked on my driveway. It didn't work out as well as I hoped, so I took it a step further and filed police reports for trespassing. My neighbor wasn't happy about it, but for now, I think he's finally learned his lesson. And our second story. The broken electric organ. Growing up, we were over at my grandparents' house a lot. They lived 5 minutes away. My grandmother had an electric organ. She played the piano and for some reason decided to learn the organ as well. She could play it, but not nearly as well as the piano. Being a kid, I wanted to play the organ every time I was over there. Sometimes I'd get to bang on the keys, but it never lasted that long because I'm sure it was annoying. However, most of the time it was broken. It was always broken during Thanksgiving, Christmas, Easter, and any other time the entire family was over for a holiday or party. That wouldn't stop me from flipping the power switch to find out, well, a couple of times it wasn't broken, but I was quickly told to turn it off because it was very loud throughout the whole house. Spoiler, they just forgot to break the organ. This went on for years. Sometimes it'd be working, sometimes it was broken. At some point, I figured out that broken just meant it was unplugged. One day, I plugged it in and started to play. My grandmother comes in, and I proudly tell her that it wasn't broken. Someone just unplugged it. She just laughs and goes back in the kitchen. This goes on for a while until Christmas when I check to see if it's plugged in. It is, so I flip the power switch. Nothing. I'm told it really is broken this time. Info. My grandfather was an electrician. I don't remember if I ever got to play the organ before I moved away in high school. One year when we came back for Christmas, I might have been in college, I was turning on the backlights. The organ was near the back door and there was a bank of 5 or 6 light switches right next to the door. I hit the wrong one and the organ turned on. It was so old and had speakers in it that it sounded like someone dropped a microphone when it turned on. Everyone in the room jumped and my grandmother ran over and turned off the power switch. I started laughing and said, I knew it was never broken. My grandfather told me that after I figured out it was unplugged, he rewired the outlet and added another switch so the organ outlet was controlled by a switch. Here's where the petty revenge comes in. Years later, I'm now mid-30s, married with an 18-month-old who we took up to see everyone this past Christmas. Everyone's over the house on Christmas Eve. My daughter climbs on everything, and the organ and the bench are still there, so she climbs up and starts banging on the keys. My grandmother goes over and sweetly says, I'm sorry, but it's broken. I hear this and immediately smile. I think, F that, it's not broken. Maybe 20 minutes later, my daughter's back on the organ bench, so I decide it's time for a little payback. I check to see if it's plugged in and flip the switch on the wall. She's already banging on the keys, so I turn the volume halfway up and hit the power button. The organ starts blaring and everyone in the room jumps. My daughter was so shocked she almost fell off the bench. She starts hitting the keys again. I start laughing, and so do my dad, my grandfather, and all my uncles. I turn the volume down and proudly exclaim, "This is for all the times you told me it was broken." We let her play for a couple minutes before I turned it off. I love that the inspiration for revenge occurred to you not on your own behalf, but in the moment you saw that old Nan was about to spoil the joys of musical discovery for your daughter the same way she'd spoiled them for you as a child. And our last story. A wild Karen got arrested with a felony. I'm a 35-year-old father of 2 boys. I have PTSD due to time overseas and have the physical scars to match the mental scars. I have an incredible wife that knows me and knows what situations I should avoid. My children are amazing, but this story revolves around my youngest son and my service dog. Jay, my youngest son, has autism, and we share a special bond because some things that set him off also put my teeth on edge. Spike, my English bulldog, he's my service dog. He's well-trained, lazy, judgmental, and overall uninterested in anything he can't eat. He's also very in tune to Jay and my emotions and will provide a distraction when we get overwhelmed. Basically, he's like, "Oh, you're stressed? Here, scratch my butt. You'll feel better and I'll get attention." It's a win-win. The story. My family recently moved to Texas. Because we now live very close to an amusement park, we got memberships. Shout out to the park for being amazing when it comes to special needs. This particular park in Arlington, Texas has a special program for autistic people. They have rooms set aside to chill at if you're overstimulated so you can relax, go back out, get overstimulated again, and around you go. With Jay, we also don't have to wait in lines. This is a huge thing and the cause of this story. The park has a pass that lets you skip most of the lines, and they charge an arm and a leg for this. However, with that pass, you still end up in a line of the hundreds of people that also have that pass. Jay gets no lines at all. We get a special pass and we go through the exit. The worker signs the pass and we go on the ride. Jay has a favorite ride, the log ride. There's been days that we would ride the log ride over and over, then eat. We also have the food pass, which we pay for, then go back to the log ride. On this day, T, my oldest, and Jay wanted to go on the log ride. So we made our way to the exit and left Wife and Spike in the shade, because someone has to stay with them, and bulldogs plus rides don't mix. As we're going in the exit, a woman started screaming at us. I've absolutely no hearing on my right side. Thanks, high pressure wave. So didn't consider it worth turning my head to listen. Now, because we ride this ride almost exclusively, the workers on this ride know us by name and sight. Jay even talks to them, which is rare. We go in, show the pass, sit, and ride. This time, though, Tabitha, I'll call her Tabitha because Karen's overused, the woman that was screaming at us as we were walking in through the out, made her way to where the speedy pass ends at the ride, where a red shirt will check her pass and let her go on her way. She didn't even want to ride. She just wanted to yell about us going in through the exit. Now we're abusing the system. Now, anyone that looks at Jay can see he's in a world all his own and wouldn't be surprised if he's literally reading the future or talking to aliens. He's awesome. The red shirt tries to calm her down. T's getting upset because he's a normal 9-year-old and adults yelling is uncool. Jay making his excited sounds and waiting for the log to stop so he can get in. We get in, and as we float away, we hear Tabitha screaming. The ride ends and we exit. We figured we'd never see Tabitha again, but obviously, at this point, it didn't go that way. Tabitha appeared like a dark brother after making the sacrifice. Elder Scrolls reference, hooting and screaming. She's screaming that just because Jay is an R word doesn't mean we get extra rights. The screaming causes Jay to let out his super screech. Now, anyone that knows autism knows that autistic kids have superpowers. In Jay's case, it's a supersonic, ear-shattering, high-pitched screech that makes your eyes swim and makes it feel like things in your head are moving that shouldn't. This whole time, Spike was laying on the ground in a froggy position, as bulldogs do, just looking at Tabitha like she's a rabid dog, but not worth getting up for. As we're being screamed at, I see 2 officers approaching from behind Tabitha. I smile. My smile must have broke Tabitha because she hauls off and kicks Spike. This flips my switch because now my family is literally under attack and I start to react. Before I could make contact, Tabitha is already in the air, being held, carried, half dragged away while being cuffed. Now in front of me is a well-dressed and PO'd looking officer. He tells us he heard the screech and started heading to it because they thought a ride broke or something bad happened. I take the time to unflip that switch and examine Spike. He's limping and crying. I feel his hips and feel that his hip is dislocated. I jokingly ask the officer to walk away and let me get some. He, of course, has no humor to this, but also can tell I had a career. He asks what happened, and we all explain what happened from A to Z. He asks if Spike is a service dog. I say yes. He smiles. I'm not in a smile mood, but it catches me off guard. He explains that in Texas, to intentionally injure a service dog is a felony. By this time, park security arrived and issued a trespass order to Tabitha. The officers ask if I want to press charges. I look at Spike and look back. Yes, I say. Tabitha and her tiny mouse-like husband start to freak out as Tabitha's loaded into a golf cart. We hop on a cart too and leave to go to the vet. The vet fixed Spike and all is well. We went back the next day with Spike in a stroller. No one batted an eye, and everyone loves the bulldog in a stroller. I let people pet him. He's a hoot, and the park is an amazing place. I've been contacted by the investigating officer and have given depositions. I may have to testify, but I look forward to sitting on the bench with Spike on my lap. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.